Cool, got it, thank you.
Have you ever felt like you're hanging on to something so tightly that if you let go even a little bit, it will all fall apart? Maybe that something is your marriage. Maybe it's your parenting. It could be your finances, your future, your reputation, an outcome that you're desperately trying to hold on to. You tell yourself that you're trusting God, but if you're being honest, you're exhausted from trying to hold it all together. That was me, 8 years into my marriage. Good afternoon, guys. I'm so glad you're here. My name is Julie Stickney, and I'm just so honored to be a part of this Shama conference. I think that it is imperative that we as women know what it means to hear, listen, and obey the voice of God. And I was thinking about content for this, and I realized God has given me a lot of stories about obedience and letting go. I feel like obedience is like an archaeological dig of the soul, right? And as we surrender to God's leading, He gently excavates layer after layer, revealing what doesn't belong, healing what is broken, and transforming us to look more and more like Jesus. But today, I've decided to share one of the most significant excavations of my life, the work that God did in my heart and in my marriage. So my husband and I were in our 8th year of marriage. I was teaching middle school full-time. We had 3 little kids, ages 2, 5, and 8. Andre, my husband, was in grad school. We were very involved in our church. Our kids had all sorts of activities. And from the outside, our life looked really full and meaningful. But behind the scenes, I was exhausted. Emotionally exhausted, physically exhausted, relationally exhausted. This is a photo of us here in middle school, 8th grade promotion. So we went out in middle school, broke up a few times, got back together in high school. That's us at our sophomore year snowball at Gresham High School. And then we stayed together since our senior year of high school. So Andre went out into the military. I went to U of O. We survived the long distance thing. And then we eventually got married. But the irony is, Andre and I had known each other for a really long time, but we didn't actually know each other, if that makes sense. Our relationship had been built on snippets of time together, high school fun, emails, letters, broken up phone calls to the Persian Gulf, hurried weekends, drunken outings, letting loose at college bars, and one full week that we spent together every year over New Year's in Cobblestone, Lucas with my family. Then, suddenly, in a span of about 6 months in the year of 2004, we checked off quite a few major life events. We found out we were pregnant. Surprise! I graduated from my master's program. Andre got out of the military. We had a huge wedding, a short honeymoon. We moved into our first home. I started teaching at West Point Middle School, and we had baby Gabe. It was a whirlwind, to say the least. Through all of this, I realized I carried unspoken expectations into our marriage. A few of them are that I expected Andre to respond and treat me like my family did. I expected outbursts of emotion, praise when I performed well, taking responsibility for the things that adults are supposed to take care of. Rom-coms, Disney movie, and all those love triangle books that some of us are obsessed with conditioned me to expect him to intuitively know how to always make me feel seen, valued, and special. I was, after all, his princess. None of this was communicated to Andre. Honestly, I wasn't even fully aware of all these expectations myself. But unspoken expectations have a way of quietly shaping our relationships. We're not going to stop and reflect now, but on your handout, There's a question I encourage you to stop and think about. Have I spoken or not spoken some expectations? Have I not shared some expectations with maybe somebody in a significant relationship for me, like a spouse, a friend, a coworker, maybe even a child? Maybe you have unidentified expectations even. So I'm going to tell you, this reflection work takes effort. It's really hard, you guys, to not just point the finger at someone else when there's disconnection or discontentment in a relationship. So I just want to encourage you to sit with that for a little while. So I entered our marriage carrying a bag full of expectations. Andre entered our marriage carrying a bag full of deep wounds. Andre was born in Colombia, South America. He was adopted at the age of 3. His early years taught him that the people closest to you might not always be safe. And when he was 14, this lesson deepened when a sudden and unexpected divorce led to his world once again being unstable and emotionally disconnected. So I'm over here longing for emotional connectedness and closeness for my husband, and he's struggling to understand what that even means, access it for himself, let alone be able to offer it to me. I used to jokingly call him a light switch. Sometimes he was emotionally on and present, and sometimes he was completely unavailable and shut off, and I never really knew why. When he was on, we were good, and when he was off, everything in me spiraled. Our seasons of disconnection would last days, weeks, sometimes even months. Have you ever realized how quickly someone else's emotional state can become the barometer of your peace? And because I grew up walking on eggshells around tension, wanting to control and immediately fix things, that became my strategy in my marriage too. I would wreck myself mentally, trying to figure out what went wrong. What did I do? What did I say to cause this disconnection? What did I not do? What did I not say? Let me tell you guys, excessively asking your spouse these questions does not help the situation. But for me, if I didn't know what I did wrong, then I didn't know how to fix it. And if I didn't know how to fix something, it made me feel out of control and anxious. So there I was trying to fix, manage, control, analyze our marriage to death. And Andre's frequently emotionally unavailable and disconnected. And yet outwardly we appeared to be living a completely normal life. We genuinely had a lot of fun together. We were always really good at that. We made great memories as a family, served our church faithfully, and built a solid life together. But underneath it all, there was often a tension simmering beneath the surface. A sense that things weren't quite okay. I found myself often wondering when the next shoe would drop. What would trigger this next season of disconnection or distance between us? I knew we weren't living in deep intimacy. That what we had was not God's design for marriage. At times it felt like we were functioning even as co-managers, married roommates raising children. Maybe you can relate. Maybe there are areas of your outward life that don't match what's happening inside or behind the scenes. I just want to acknowledge that that's a tough place to be. So by year 8 of living like this, I was done. I blamed Andre for almost all of it. I would tell my friends, I just want to feel special to him. I want him to put me on a pedestal for once. It's like he doesn't even see me sometimes. I didn't want more money. I didn't need a bigger house. I didn't need these grand romantic gestures. I just wanted to feel chosen by my husband on a regular basis. I actually made a list of all the things I felt he prioritized above me at one point. It was a pretty low point for me. But what I didn't realize at the time was this. I had placed expectations on my husband that he was never meant to carry. My value, my worth, my security, my emotional stability, all of it had become tied to how well Andre showed love to me. And when he fell short, because as humans we do, I was devastated. We were functioning in what Dr. Julie Slattery calls the cycle of self-protection. I felt unloved by Andre, so I would criticize, withdraw, undermine, cling to control, which caused him to feel unsafe and inadequate, so he would shut down even further. And around we went on the cycle of self-protection. Looking back, I can see God had been slowly working on me for years. One day at church, I heard this sermon illustration called The Rope, and it rocked me. It's a story about a mountain climber determined to reach the summit of a dangerous peak. After years of preparation, he decides to climb this mountain by himself. He's climbing higher when darkness rolls in and a dense fog shows up. But instead of stopping for the night, he keeps going. Suddenly, he slips. He begins falling down the mountain at terrifying speeds. Just as he thinks he's going to hit the ground and die, he catches the rope with a violent jerk. Hanging there in complete darkness, unable to see anything below him, he cries out, "God, help me." And in response, he hears a voice, "Do you trust me?" "Yes, Lord, I trust you. Please save me," he shouts. "Then cut the rope," the voice simply responds. The climber froze. Instead of letting go, he gripped the rope tighter. "Save me," he shouted again in desperation. "Cut the rope," he hears a little more firmly. The next morning, rescuers found him frozen to death, clinging to the rope, 2 feet from the ground. The Spirit stirred within me. I knew this lesson was for me. I sensed God was quietly telling me that sometimes the things we are clinging to and control are the very things keeping us from experiencing the freedom He so desperately wants to give us. I thought the hero of my marriage was supposed to be Andre. If he would just love me better, communicate better, pursue me better, then I would finally be okay. We would finally be okay. But the hero of my marriage was never supposed to be Andre. The hero is Jesus. It was then the Lord gently said to me, "Take all those expectations you've piled on your husband and bring them to me instead. I can carry what he cannot. I value you, Julie. You are special to me. You are already fully loved because I have chosen you to be mine." And then came the invitation I didn't want but desperately needed. You might have guessed. Cut the rope. Let go. Surrender your marriage to me. And honestly, it was pretty terrifying because I thought that if I stopped gripping so tightly, if I let go even a little, I felt my marriage, and therefore my family with my sweet little babies, would fall apart. But as a last-ditch effort, I slowly began to let go more and more in obedience. I stopped trying to force Andre to be something he wasn't ready to be. I stopped trying to manage his emotions so that he would always be happy and we would be good. I stopped making Andre responsible for my value, my worth, and my peace. And what shocked me the most was this. I didn't feel like I lost control. I felt free. It was like the ground was only 2 feet away the entire time. The weight I'd been carrying for so long suddenly wasn't mine anymore. Soren Kierkegaard has observed that life is lived forward, but only understood backwards. And what I learned is that freedom often feels terrifying right before it feels peaceful. So when Andre would shut down emotionally, instead of spiraling and obsessively asking what went wrong, I would bring my heart to Jesus through one of the main ways that I hear from the voice of God, journaling. I'd write to him about how I was feeling, my frustrations, my fears, my anxieties, my hopes and desires, and every single time he would meet me there. He comforted me, he steadied me, he reminded me that my husband was no longer the emotional thermostat of my heart. He was. And something unexpected happened. Andre felt free too. For the first time in our marriage, he no longer lived under constant pressure to be everything for me. The fear of inadequacy was reduced, the shame began to lift, and the defensiveness softened. And slowly, real intimacy began to grow. Our love blossomed as we entered the cycle of intimacy. Not perfect intimacy, not effortless intimacy, but honest, safe, God-honoring intimacy. Honor began counseling and started working through his years of trauma. Like me, he needed Jesus to be the hero of our marriage as well. I began healing from people-pleasing, performance-based work, and my deep need to control outcomes. And over time, our marriage transformed. Not because we finally became perfect for each other, but because we stopped asking our marriage to give us what only God could provide. We stopped treating it like a transaction built on expectations, and instead began rebuilding it as a covenant, a sacred commitment where grace replaced scorekeeping and surrender replaced control. Honor and I will celebrate 22 years of marriage this July. God is so good, and he definitely has a sense of humor. The same God who restored our marriage called us to start the Rise Marriage Team. And so for the past 10 years, we've had the privilege of walking alongside couples in crisis, many facing struggles similar to what we once faced ourselves. What an incredible picture of beauty from ashes. Friends, that's what obedience and letting go does. It doesn't instantly change your circumstances, but it changes where you place your trust. Sometimes the very thing we're gripping the hardest is the thing keeping us from experiencing the freedom God has for us. And I do want to pause here and say something really important. Nothing I'm sharing today is about tolerating abuse, enabling harm, or staying silent in situations that are unsafe. This is not a story about enduring hardship and abuse and calling it godly. There are absolutely times when boundaries, separation, protection, counseling, and intervention are necessary. But what I began to realize in my own marriage was something different. Many of us, men and women, myself included, enter adulthood without the emotional tools needed for deep intimacy. We are all products of our upbringing, and many grown adults, including myself and some of us in this room, were never taught how to identify emotions, express vulnerability, repair conflict, or foster emotional intimacy. That doesn't excuse hurtful behavior, but it can give some context for maybe some building resentment that you might be having towards a person. A few years ago, the Lord hit me with this realization. Expecting Henri to meet all of my emotional needs was a little like him expecting me to know how to speak Mandarin. It's not that I would be unwilling to speak Mandarin, it's that I don't know how to speak Mandarin. And for years, I interpreted Henri's emotional unavailability as a lack of love, when really it was just a lack of tools. He generally didn't know how to access or express some of the things I was needing. I wonder if it's possible if you're experiencing any relationship tension with a partner, that it's not built on, I don't want to, but rather, I don't know how to. If that's the case, what would it look like to partner with this person to help them grow? Maybe for you today, the thing that you're clinging to is not your marriage. Maybe it's the need to be a perfect mom, to give your kids a life you didn't have. Maybe it's proving yourself at work and climbing the promotion ladder. It could be that you're clinging to financial security. It could be that you're trying to portray a certain image, or you're killing yourself to maintain a certain standard of beauty. Here's the truth. No person or thing can carry the weight of being your Savior. Only Jesus can. Everything placed on the throne of our hearts besides Jesus will eventually fail us. He is the hero of your story. Not you, not your spouse, just Jesus. Standing on the other side of this type of surrender, I can confidently tell you this. You can let go. Not because everything is going to go the way you want, but because you can trust the one who holds it all together. Maybe today you're sensing the Lord is whispering the same words to you. Let go. Cut the rope. Surrender it to me. I am the hero you've been longing for. Letting go isn't the end of control. It's the beginning of trust. All right, I have a couple quick books for you. I'm a big reader, so a couple books. Free of Me, Sharon Hopiller, will transform you if you struggle with self-focus and pride. Are You Really Okay by Deborah Fletta is legit like months and months of counseling, which costs hundreds of dollars, for like $8.99 on Amazon. And Finding the Hero of Your Husband is the book you need if your marriage is struggling. Full stop. Order it tonight. We're going to switch gears a little bit and move away from me just talking at you. I've invited a few of my friends to join me today. Each of them has their own story of obedience and letting go. Different circumstances, different journeys. Oh, can we put that slide back up, Alexis? Thanks. But the same faithful God at work in the middle of it all. It's my joy to introduce my friend Toni Morgan. She is a passionate follower of Jesus, a gifted author, and someone who courageously shares her story through poetry. She has a unique ability to put words to experience.
And release them years later in a passive-aggressive comment. Author unknown. Emotions are dangerous. They can take hold of your thoughts, your body, your actions. If you open yourself up to them, you never know what you're going to get. Like I said, they're dangerous. At least that's what I always thought. For most of my life, I told myself I wasn't emotional, I was logical. I was in control, and that felt like strength. My sister would sometimes say, "You're so emotional," and I hated that. To me, it felt like I was being told I wasn't in control, that I wasn't thinking clearly, that I was weak. So I learned to hold it all in. But emotions don't disappear. They come out when they're not wanted. Pain, anger, fear. The more I pushed them down, the louder they came, and at the worst time. Like they'd been planning a jailbreak and forgot to tell me. Would have been nice if they passed me a note first. And when they came out sharp, hard, because they'd been buried too long. They didn't just hurt me. They hurt the people around me. The truth is, I didn't just silence my own emotions. I pulled away when others shared theirs. I couldn't handle their emotions because I was never shown how to put words to my own. Me, I spent a lifetime taking out the hard emotions, the painful ones, examining them, turning them over my hands, and then shoving them right back in the box before they could get too loud. But maybe it's putting them back. That's the problem. I've told myself for years, you don't feel that much. It doesn't matter what you feel. What you think doesn't matter. The only way to live is to be logical, to stay in control of yourself and everyone around you. That's what I believed. That's what I thought would keep me safe. It felt like safety, but really it was fear. It was denial. It was silence. I do feel things deeply, and I'm learning that's not the problem. The problem is saying nothing. It always finds a way out, and it rarely comes out soft and gentle. Even now, other people's deep emotions, they can make me uncomfortable. That's what happens when you grow up believing that feelings aren't safe. I couldn't make sense of my own. How could I possibly understand theirs? My own emotions, they're finally starting to show, not because it's easy, but because he's been slowly pulling down the walls. Writing gave them a voice, a way to say the hard things out loud. And I'm learning to let them be not just sharp, but tender. I don't have to be only one thing, logical or emotional, strong or soft. I can be both. Something sharp, something tender, and still be whole. Create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Psalms 51:10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10. 10
Wow, isn't she amazing, guys? All right. Next up, we have a very special performance from a group of my friends. Several months ago, Malia Frederick was on a work trip in Hawaii when the Lord gave her a vision for a skit. In obedience, she frantically wrote it down, then was a bit confused and asked, well, what do you want me to do with this now, Lord? And he said, email it to Julie. She hesitated for a while, unsure of why she would be prompted to do that. But in obedience, she finally hit send, and the moment I read it, I knew exactly what God was up to. Malia didn't know it at the time, but this skit was intended for this conference, this message, and this stage. It's a beautiful reminder that when God asks us to take a step of obedience, even when we don't understand why, He is often weaving together something much joy from shackled to freedom again.
I'm really excited about having the microphone. It's like I have to project. It's not my strong suit. When I am struggling, there is a vision that the Lord has given me. It has similarities to Jacob Marley in the Christmas Carol, but also a critical difference. You see, Marley was forced to carry the heavy chains and burdens of his greed and his sins in the afterlife forever. Freedom would never be his. And I too have my own chains that I carry more frequently than I would like to admit. But unlike Marley, who will be shackled forever, Jesus promises that because of his sacrifice, he will carry them for me. And therein lies the difference. But sadly, even with this truth and this amazing freedom that he offers, I often forget. And though this battle rages in my mind, the weight of it is also very real to me. I find myself dragging these heavy chains on my own. I am shackled, fighting against chains that are wrapped around and dragging these massive boxes of burdens. These boxes are full of fear, anxiety, depression, loneliness, and shame. They are giant and they are cruel as they mock me with every step. They speak to all the worst things in me. You know, your whole family could die on the way home from that event and you'll be left totally alone. You might lose your job in this next transition. Good luck finding another job in this market. You are so tired. Life is so busy and hard right now. Hope you can make it through the day. You don't have any real friends. If something happens to you, no one will care. No one struggles the way you do. What's wrong with you? You'll never be worthy of your family's love. You are sinful. You are broken. With head down, I am struggling to pull these horrible chains. And the enemy loves every minute of it. He snickers in delight, for when I am shackled, I am no longer a threat to him. After all, how can I help build the kingdom for Jesus if I am struggling, trying to just drag all of this around? Each step feels impossible. The weight, the pain, the mockery. I know I can't go backwards. I've come way too far to go back. But I am desperately stuck trying to pull against something beyond my ability to carry. I try and I fail to take another step. Collapse was inevitable. Finally, in desperation, I cry out, Jesus, I need you. I can't do this on my own. And that is when I hear the voice of my Savior, who's been patiently standing there all along. Look up, child. I'm right here. Remember, those chains are not yours to carry anymore. They are mine. Let me carry them for you again. I strain my head to look up, and I meet his gaze. How did I miss that he was standing right there? There is no condemnation, only love in his eyes. He opens his hand, and there sitting atop his scar lies the key that can unlock these heavy shackles. And at that moment, the memories flood back into my mind. He already unlocked these so many times before. Why do I go from surrender to taking it back again? When will I learn? I weep at his feet in sadness that I found myself here again, but mostly in utter relief and gratitude that he is willing to take this from me. He helps me to stand, and while his capable hands unlock the shackles, I remember that he is the only one who holds the key. He is the key. With unconditional love, he takes them off my wrists and he places them on his own, reminding me that at the cross, he carried not just my sins, but my pain and my suffering as well. As I catch my breath, I feel the burdens lift, and I raise my head up high. I thank him once again for his grace as I taste this good and great freedom. Burdenless, I can now be light and salt and help build the kingdom for him. I am so unworthy of this love, but he does it for me anyway. I turn to see the enemy near. I love the disappointment in his face. I can tell him to go back to the shadows once again because victory is not his. Not today, Satan. Jesus is so incredibly patient with me. I know that he will keep taking these burdens on himself over and over and allow me to walk in freedom. I just need to look up and surrender again. I hear the lyrics of Amazing Grace. My chains are gone, I've been set free. My God, my Savior, has ransomed me. And look at that, his mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. I pray that I will look up a little sooner next time, because let's be honest, there will be a next time. My flesh is weak and in need of a Savior always, but I know that those chains will become fewer and further between as I continue to grow in this journey with him. Ladies, if you are struggling like me and find yourself shackled to what burdens you, taunted by the enemy's lies, remember that you too have a Savior who stands near. While we were still sinners, he sacrificed himself for us. By his stripes we are healed, and we no longer need to carry these burdens. He holds the key, and he's patiently waiting to carry it for us again.
Great job. That was the last one.
Let's give it up for Malia and Brett and Jessica Hyman and my husband, Conrad, as Satan. What a powerful picture of what so many of us experience in our walk with God. The truth is, guys, freedom isn't lost all at once. It happens one compromise, one fear, one wound, one slip up at a time. And the next thing we know, we find ourselves once again shackled to the things that we had surrendered to the Lord and been set free from. Maybe as you watched that skit, you saw part of your own story. Maybe you recognized a burden you've been carrying, a box you've picked back up, a toxic person you keep turning back to, a label you're living out of once again. Throughout today, we've been talking about obedience and letting go. We've talked about loosening our grip on the rope and surrendering the things we placed on the throne of our hearts. But surrender isn't just something we talk about, it's something we do. Sometimes over and over again. So before we leave today, I do want to create some space for us to meet with the Lord. No striving, no performing, no trying to fix ourselves, not worrying about anyone else in the room. Just an opportunity to honestly bring before Him what you sense He's been putting on your heart today. So I'm going to ask us to quiet our hearts and enter into a time of guided prayer. Take a moment and get quiet before the Lord. If you have things on your lap, maybe you can set them down or to the side. I want you to take a few deep breaths, inhaling